Only 100% of the people on this planet really do change something and build something new. In virtue of this negligible amount of people, civilization continues to develop. This is the speed of social and scientific progress. Who are these people? How do they differ from each other? Are they rich? Are they the most influential people in the world? Do they lead global corporations? Maybe they are popular politicians, actors, and stars. No? These are the people who you see and show us new ways, who are able to engage others in shining opportunities. These are who lay a course into chaos. Their vision of the future is so powerful that they attract people, and consequently attract resources and money. Money attracts politicians, and politicians attract other states and countries. And the whole international community gradually adopt new paths. This is the way actual progress is implemented. This is the way the worlds can be built up. But everything begins from its creators, from visionaries, from prophets who were able to see and show us the future and to visualize ideas. Where are they from? I was born in the late 80s. That time no one knew and could even predict that about 40 years were left before the catastrophe. I graduated from the university with a degree in engineering. My father secured me a place in a large corporation. Choking from the privation prospects, I started to hate my job, as well as the millions of my peers. At that time, to build a career without any contacts was almost impossible. Only those who had the connections with headquarters were able to break into the top. The corporation flourished. But, however, there was another way. The early part of the 21st century became the age of progress in the sphere of innovations and startups. The world was rocked with amazing stories of new young billionaires who made a mint in the sphere of high technologies. I envied them. These guys appeared from nowhere with their brilliant ideas, and in just a few years they have built corporations on the world scale. Sergey Brin created Google, and by 2004 he had earned about $4 billion. In 1997, Evgeny Kaspersky created an antivirus program and founded a company which brought him $700 million and international fame. In 2004, Zuckerberg had developed and launched Facebook, the famous social network, the value of which in just 3 years reached $15 billion, making Zuckerberg the youngest billionaire in the world. Robert Pura, the former Apple engineer, Maxim Nagatov, Yoshikatsu Tanaka, all of these entrepreneurs decided to make their own way in the sphere of innovative business, and in a few years they had reached the Forbes top list of richest people. I made a decision. No more dull existence and slow career growth. Why should I try to climb the career ladder during 15 or more years, letting someone who got in the company due to profitable connections to be the first and get everything? No way! I have chosen another way independent from authorities and different rules. My way was supposed to be the establishment of my own company. That time, the startups seemed to me the fastest way to success and prosperity. By that time, our government had also realized the potential of innovation. We are convinced that Russia now faces a dilemma, the innovational progress or degradation. Of course, today the project of creating an innovational economy in Russia is still a work in progress. It is still in the very, very early stages of its development. That time, we did not believe in the initiative from the top down. I paddled my own canoe, dreaming to get rich as quick as possible and plunge into the fun, pleasure, and joy. I came up with the invention of, as it seemed to me, a brilliant idea. The only thing that is left to do is to find an investor, and I could start to make my own money hand over fist. I read some information on the internet and started to visit different startup meetings. Perhaps that's why I'm standing here in front of you now. I asked myself these questions so many times. I could say something like, okay guys, let's make money. I said nothing new actually, right? Well, what if I say something like, we're doing something that changes this world? Yes, I'm sure someone will in any way react or respond in such words. To implement my brilliant idea, I needed someone who could give me $50,000, and I had to talk this person down. I went to my father's classmate who made his wealth due to some speculative transactions. He didn't give me a dime. Honestly, the first refusal has not made much of an impression on me. I remember, I thought, what a fool! He doesn't understand his happiness. So I asked other people for help. When the number of rejections had reached 5, my assurance and confidence started to disappear. It became clear that my idea lacked credibility. So, I decided to draft a project for everyone to understand that my idea is so good that it can change even the world and the future. When innovations enter our lives, everything will change greatly. We will fly airplanes in the cities, we'll have robots in every house, and lots of other amazing, useful, high-tech devices. As a result, now all of us have smartphones with lots of different applications. We also have iPads. That's why I really think that when other innovations enter our lives, we won't be able to even notice this. People will continue to dream about something unique that will happen in the future. In anticipation of fame and money, I excitedly set to work. I wrote a business plan, put my heart and soul into it, and for being able to work over my project, I even quit my job. Well, actually, I got kicked out of it. Simultaneously, I was gathering the information about people who could help me with the investment. They were called business angels at that time. Business angels are the private investors who put the money into innovative projects and startups at an early stage of their creation, in exchange for a share of equity and return on the investments. The term business angel was first introduced in the US in 1978, where the highest concentration of business angels were noticed. It accounts for approximately 50% of the total investments in innovation accrued. The participation of such business angels is the basis of success in such high-tech giants like Apple and Google. Having found the coordinates of several business angels, I tried to initiate a contact with them. All my hopes and aspirations were associated with these special people. I was sure they would really appreciate my project. I was determined to win. But all of them refused to help me. Which was a great shock for me. I was devastated. I lost faith in myself. Everyone got everything, but nothing worked out with me. I was assured in the strength of my project and its appeal to investors. The innovations have a bit different motivation, which goes beyond money. I gave up that time. That's it for me, I thought. No money, no job, no future. It was a big shock for me. And suddenly, I got a strange message. It was him. He never talked about himself. We'd never met each other, only talked on the phone. Maybe that's why I started to call him a voice. He became my mentor. He became my gates from ignorance into the world of knowledge. The end is when you die. That is why we call it the end. If there's any failure, it's just some kind of feedback that tells you that you're doing something wrong. but we will always be doing something wrong. And the whole of our lives and this sense of life is a school where we try to change something. Every failure is just a new beginning when we repeat the decision we made before by changing just a small number of parameters. And only when we achieve the results. No matter where your advisor appeared from, what is important is whether you're ready to hear his words, to take and follow his advice, or you just listen to yourself and nobody else. So what do you really want from your life? Money and fame? This trick doesn't work out with innovations. The main thing here is the idea. It's always about you and your wishes. This is the meaning of the greatest allegiance. First, you are serving the idea, and you give yourself to it. The idea is like a super demon, some spiritual entity which is trying to break into this reality through you. It tries to be realized with your help. As you give yourself to it, you conclude some sort of an agreement, a heavenly deal with your idea. Finally, here comes something like an exchange. You give your idea to the opportunities, and you give it your freedom, and at this moment, the idea starts to fill you with your truly fantastical energy. It creates the desired motivation. Then, you suddenly realize that there are no limitations anymore. The history of innovation began in the second decade of the 20th year at Stanford University in California. The excess in the territory of the university with its equipment were given to the high-tech companies for long-term leases. Besides the rent, the university also received additional opportunity for employment of its students and graduates. This is how the history of the Silicon Valley, the world's greatest center of innovation of the 20th century, which has been set up as an incubator for businesses in providing the conditions necessary in the development of high-tech companies, started. By the 20th century, many nations followed the example of Silicon Valley and started to create their own technology parks. The leader of this high-tech industry is Israel, which turned from a predominantly agricultural country into a powerful high-tech state. Another leader in the sphere of innovative nations has been China. Innovation centers play a huge role in the development of civilization and its future progress. The idea of a new project came to me by itself, as if someone had just waited until I'm gathering experience and then just put it in my head. I started a new project in the IT sphere. It was your famous project, right? Of course, no. That time I had no idea about the terrible destiny awaiting mankind, and without any bad thoughts, I simply created my own future. My active self-education and my initial experiences have led me to believe that I need a dedicated team. By that time, I have brought like-minded people together. I negotiated with a few interested individuals and we started to work. The most difficult part was to take the Presidio in the seed stages. No one actually believed us because we only had an idea and nothing but that idea. The most difficult thing was associated with money. Some of the money we received from our parents, some we also borrowed from our friends, and after that we started to make the new prototype, i.e. something that is not fully functioning, but allows the investors and other interested parties to understand the nature of our innovation rapidly. We skidded. The most annoying thing was associated with the unwieldy bureaucratic mechanism and red tape. This is what many startuppers are now faced with today. The money quickly ran out, and I realized that I must find some serious funding resources. While my boys were working on the alpha version of the project, I collected data on the venture funds, investment companies that are working with startups. There are lots of negative stories about the communication and problems with venture funds. Sometimes that happens when someone presents his idea and describes the key moment of his project. The similar one project appears in the market in some period of time. Moreover, there's a project with a similar promotional technology. This means that some kind of leak at the level of funds had happened, and this, unfortunately, is impossible to prove de facto. This time, I've got a refusal again. I had no money anymore, and I started to fall into depression. It seems the whole world is against me. But that voice, it came again to help me. He fought hard for me. Strange. I didn't even think about why he is helping me. Maybe he's attracted by the idea of the project. The value doesn't hide in ideas. The value lays in people who were able to create these ideas. Why do I waste my time on you? Simply because I feel that you have a hidden potential. By the way, here's a very interesting moment, a kind of paradox. If I help you to make your startup, I'll put an end to your development. Why? Because if your project will have a success, it means that it will completely engulf you, and instead of developing spiritually, you will start to develop a business. Rather weak business, I have to say. For me, it'll be great if you fail your business again and again. Why? Because that's how you will go through the frustration and start to study something. There was a kind of mystery in everything he told me. It seemed like he was not telling me something. It seemed like something unclear, something very interesting and important is like slipping away from me. By the time I realized I built the team wrong. Of course, the experts saw our obvious amateurism. An experienced investor does not buy the idea. He buys a team that is able to implement that idea. I needed not just like-minded people, but the professionals that could ignite from the inside, and which could believe in my idea, and just as me to do everything possible to realize it. I never thought to find such people could be quite difficult. Just a few words to characterize modern professionals who are doing or trying to do something. 1. They do not know anything. 2. They cannot do anything of great value. 3. They do not know how to research for information. 4. They don't know how to organize. 5. They don't know how to show leadership. But however, we don't have other guys to do the role. We worked hard. We were solving problems and changing ourselves. We still needed money and I took the risk. I sold the apartment provided by my parents and arranged a bank loan. When the prototype was ready, we went to RVC again and obtained the funding. We opened an office and hired a manager, but we're still working without a purpose. Also, we're not alone. It slowed down the innovations. Unable to resist the bureaucracy, some just closed business. Others went to the West. We got a proposal from the United States, the United Arab Emirates, and Israel for our team to do a startup, but not so in Russia. If we were 30 years old, most likely, we would have been accepted. But we have families, a business is already there. I know a couple of teams that are not one or two experts, namely. They actually live together. But startups were slowed down not only by bureaucracy and the lack of staff, the country was not ready for innovation. Big businesses focused on raw materials and trade. They did not need new technologies, and so the best investments went abroad. And as soon as there is a real breakthrough innovation, it is instantly being patented in the United States. It then returns to Russia as a foreign product. So, Russia has spent a huge amount of funding on innovation education, who developed the technology, loses the money on a stage when, in fact, it could have made a return on the idea. Look at the explosion of growth on the largest companies, Apple, Google, Samsung. Those corporations constantly buy innovation. There are quite a number of professionals and project teams who work for international companies, and in principle, the world billions of volumes are sold. In fact, so many are created by the Russian specialists. And in general, as if to say we do not know how to do something, you cannot. On the other hand, we cannot even begin to focus on something that is actively on Russian soil, rather than Procter or Unilever, Siemens, Samsung, and other companies who enjoy the developments made by the Russian minds and hands. We also received tempting offers. But I don't want to take leave. And as time had shown, it was for a good reason. We are well aware that in Russia, a huge number of issues in the economy as a whole, and the innovation economy in particular. The Russian economy is stifled by corruption. The economy is based on extremely weak institutions. There is not enough strong competition currently. The economy is under constant and severe pressure by the bureaucracy in Russia. Nevertheless, one cannot deny that the Russian innovation economy has been created before our eyes, and today we are seeing the first results of this process. We won! Our business was working, and we made a good profit. I was thinking about branches abroad, but fate decreed otherwise. So, what happened? I lost my company. It was simply taken away. Then it happened everywhere. Two men came to me and explained what would happen if I don't sell my company to one politician for a small amount of money. I was fighting 3 long days for the company. I called the voice for 3 days. He wasn't answering. I was alone against the whole system. When it was over, he called. It was himself. Sure, I was angry, cursing, shouting that he betrayed me. He did not utter a sound until I threw out the accumulated pain. And then he asked, "Why does it hurt?" I did not call because your company doesn't have any value for me. No, I did not help you to raise the company. This company was a testing ground where I helped you develop. You must be free, and that moment has arrived. A company from the point of development of growth has become a burden because you became attached to it. Because you thought it was something for which I was assisting you. But I was not interested in this company. I'm only interested in you. It is important you get over the pain and the loss. You won't be able to create something great unless you have learned to leave the things behind that hold you back. These people weren't taking you away from their company at all. They helped you become free from which you can close the door. This company has no value anymore. The changes you went through, the difficulties are only important. There are no more powerful ideas in the world awaiting you. What you did was nothing in comparison. Now you have the capacity to realize your own destiny. Once calm, it can be revealed. Of course, I did not understand what he really meant. Then I was not thinking about global problems, even though I knew some scientists had predicted a quick death to mankind. In 1972, the research team with Dennis Meadows presented a report, Limits to Growth, which predicted the future of humanity in the next 100 years. According to this prediction, the future of our civilization is severely threatened. If no action is taken, in 2050 the extinction of the humankind will begin. Meadows' team showed the causes of disaster. Exhaustion of natural resources and energy because of uncontrolled growth of production, total pollution and lack of water, lack of food globally due to population growth and land degradation, and international conflicts for the possession of remaining resources. The report lists the necessary measurements that can prevent a catastrophe. Those recommendations were completely ignored. World leaders did nothing to neutralize the disaster. Those few who tried to talk about the impending tragedy were presented as alarmists wanting cheap fame. The truth was buried under a mass of meaningless and often false-ordered articles and television programs. Governments were able to drown out the voices of scientists, but it was unable to prevent this ominous development. 2001. Independent experts compared the statistics for the final 30 years of the 20th century with the Meadows team data. Result? 100% match. It caused a bombshell. Also irritation for the authorities, the mass media started hounding the climate scientists. 2004. In an attempt to draw the attention to the impending crisis, Meadows published The Limits to Growth, 30 years later. However, the mass media ignored the scientists. 2011. According to economists, by 2030, the cost of overcoming the consequences of the technological growth of civilization is about $350 billion. 6 times higher than the annual output of the world economy. This means a fast and inevitable collapse. 2012. Dennis Meadows stops the conflict and discussion. He notes that humanity has crossed the point of no return. The disaster has begun. I understood that the world was on the brink, but I was not bothered. The idea of the company I had lost boiled inside me. I did not know what to do. Which direction do I need to move? Contacts with him became more intense. Let's try to answer the question, what is innovation? Well, it's simple. Innovation is when I invent something new. Well, let's say, what for you inventing something new? Well, to make life better. It's a matter of dispute, especially in fact of the amount of people who died because of various innovations. Tell me, is this reason the only one? What else motivates you? What is the point? I don't know. It comes from inside. Think. It's important. Describe this process inside you. The idea comes, it shines, I feel the light like some kind of revelation. And it changes everything. Changes what? It changes my perspective. Suddenly you start to see something you can't understand before. Some new feature. Closer. And what then? The idea of churning inside you. You cannot serve something that abstract. What you know as innovation has already existed many times, at different times under different names. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, it was in the form of religious revelations. Now it's in the form of innovation. It used to be much easier than before. Earlier innovation occurred in one man, who was called a prophet. If he survived, he created a plan of action and other people just followed him. But now we have come to another level, where innovation can come to the mind of anybody. The revelation must occur in all people. All people must be involved in innovations. We have reached a point where we have to create innovation that will allow to transform into all mankind. During these years, the world's religions were created, establishing totalitarian empires, and their aims were to consolidate people and create a resource base. And now we move on to the next phase, when it is necessary to begin to transform humanity, not in the environment. And people can only be transformed in one way, when we involve them in the process of innovation. Because this is the language in which they are trying to speak to us. The question is, how to involve innovation activities in an unlimited number of people? And if you do not, the global problems will strangle humanity. The question is, either you transform or die. Alright, but I have nothing to do with this. You will do it. What is the difference between an entrepreneur and the average person? The usual person is stimulated by problems. Problems make him think faster. A visionary entrepreneur is motivated by opportunities. The usual person is pushed by the past, environment, people, and visionaries are attracted by the future. The suggestion is, only when there is a spiritual transformation that brings people to different opportunities. When people compete in fighting for resources and finally begin to create and collaborate. Because they're given a reminder, you're a children of God. You're potentially gods. Humanity has completed kindergarten, and then it comes to a certain point, the exam. As a result of an examination of humanity, it will either be taken away if failed, or it will go to another level with other features, and most importantly, with other meanings and perspectives. This is the goal, and the involvement of people in innovation is just a tool. Innovation is the new sacred meaning. It was all nonsense. I felt I was not just empty, I was smashed into pieces. I felt as if I died. At such moments, you're open to all ideas. And when an idea comes to you, you're then all full of desire. Desire creates the will makes the act, and the action determines reality. This is the act of creation in the world. It means we're creating a world that we want to see and is worth fighting for it. Firstly, we give ourselves completely to the idea. And through the involvement of people in innovation, we create a new world. That's the goal. Creating a new world. It is not the solution to global problems. Thus, here we come to the main question. Will you serve it? You either share this thesis or you don't. One asks the question, do you want to create a new world, or are you not interested? This immediately draws the line. Who are you? Son of a god, or you're nothing? Not every son of a god becomes a god, in this sense. It was like enlightenment. I realized all ideas are viruses. This is not our belonging and the projection of a higher world. People are just vessel conductors with a higher meaning in this world. Ideas come to us not for money or glory. It comes to us to make them a reality and to change the world. For their implementation will be given the resources, knowledge, and capabilities. Hence, if you've got the idea, it means that you were chosen. This was the project you asked me about. Opportunities for all. That's what we've created. We were able to engage in innovation and creation of all people of this planet, and the world began to change. After all, if you are open and able to interact with others, share the ideas in new senses, that means you, the creator, you can change the world, and now have to convince the people with belief that anything is possible. So how am I related to this? You are doing this. So what should I do? Listen to the voice in your heart.